So I think that it is important for anybody who is working with children or has children, at least have a general sort of knowledge and concept of child development. Not that you have to know all of the ins and outs and be like an expert at it. I'm certainly not an expert. Um, but it is important for us to remember some things when we are in relationship with children. And Dr. Gary Landreth has a, a few things that he shares that I find to be helpful. Let me just pull this up. So he has 10 different tenets that he, kind of subscribes to and believes for relating to children. And so those are that children are not miniature adults. We can't expect children to cognitively be in the same place that we are as their parents or caretakers or teachers, right? Because their brain is still developing until the age of 25. And so we can't expect our 3-year-old to know how to behave appropriately or whatever it may be, right? Because they're 3. They're not 36 like myself or however old, their caretaker is. And so we need to keep in mind where they're at developmentally and remind ourselves that just because I know this or I think this or whatever doesn't mean that my child knows that, because their cognitive abilities, their executive functioning and all of that has not fully developed. And it's silly for us to think that they can kind of keep up with us as adults whose brains are, done growing and developing. So again, children are not miniature adults. That children are people. They are capable of experiencing deep emotional pain and joy. And it's good for us to remember that they're not invincible. They're not like they can experience great hurt, great loss, but also great joy and happiness as well. Children are unique and worthy of respect. So, it's important for us to really, I guess, nurture our child's uniqueness, accept that uniqueness, and be respectful of that. We're all unique. We all have differences, that make us who we are. So it's important to celebrate that. And children are resilient. Oh my goodness, if this last year, thank you, COVID, has taught us anything, how resilient are our kids? Man, they he says here that children possess a tremendous capacity to overcome obstacles and circumstances in their lives. They are flexible. They are, they're amazing. And when we put expectations for kids up high, most of the time they will meet our expectations. If we keep the bar low for them, that's, I don't know, they can rise to our expectations, and they will, just like we saw this year with having to wear masks at school, having to social distance, having to clean their hands so frequently and hand sanitizer and stay home. And, they are resilient, resilient, resilient. Children have an inherent tendency toward growth and maturity. They possess an inner intuitive wisdom. And again, I'm just reading this from this book. Again, Play Therapy, The Art of the Relationship. This is on page 46. This is Gary Landreth's tenets for relating to children. Children are capable of positive self-direction. They can deal with their world and their experiences in creative ways, as long as we don't try to minimize that and put the kaput on it or whatever. So their natural language is play. This is the medium of self-expression with which they're most comfortable. If you think about if you or I were to go into a counselor's office, or even with like a best friend, and we're kind of working through something, we're trying to process it. Our children's brains at 6, 7, 8, however old, again, up till 25, it's still developing, parts of their brain. They are not able to cognitively think about, have that self-awareness, reflect at the level that we can as adults. And so we need to remember that. But that play is their natural language. And so that's how they work through stuff, like I've said in other videos. Children have the right to remain silent. That can really trigger some parents when kids don't want to talk, they don't answer, they're not engaging in the conversation. But it's important for us to remember just how we sometimes, when we are feeling certain ways, we don't want to participate in a conversation. We just want to be silent. We want to have that time to ourselves to kind of self-regulate or soothe or whatever. It's important to remember that kids, have that desire sometimes as well, and that's okay. Children will take the therapeutic experience to where they need to be. So that obviously is geared more towards, play therapists or, people who are working with kiddos in the community in a therapeutic sort of way. But if you do that special play time with your kids, just know, like, kiddos know what they need to process, their experience, their surroundings, whatever it is they're going through, and they will, through play, do what they need to do to kind of make sense of that and do that. So, sorry, I've got lots of things going on. Real life happening in the background here. And then also, children's growth cannot be sped up. So the therapist recognizes this and is patient with the child's developmental process. And I would say the parent as well, obviously. So just knowing, where your kiddo is at developmentally, what, to kind of expect from them at the different ages and stages of their life will, I think, go a long ways with diffusing maybe some of the frustration that parents or caretakers have with kids, knowing that they're not doing what they're doing to be stinkers and to get on your nerves and to just, do it to be irritating. They're doing it because it's just a developmental thing that they are learning through, that they're processing, that they're growing, right? And so those are the tenets that Dr. Gary Landreth has for relating to children, that I think are just important for us to keep in mind. But also, there are a lot of different theories and ways of looking at childhood development out there. If you just, do a search on child development, all sorts of things will pop up. Kind of just the one that I'm going to go over with you would be Erik Erikson's 8 stages of psychosocial development. And I'm only going to go through, until the kids' ages. But Erik Erikson is the name, and it's the stages of psychosocial development. So the first stage that begins at birth and lasts through about a year is trust versus mistrust. So during this stage of child development, the infant is developing a sense of trust with their caretakers. When they cry, and their caretaker comes in and attends to them and gets them what they need, whether it be milk or a clean diaper or snuggles or whatever it may be, they develop the sense of trust, when caretakers provide that care, affection, and when they're reliable, right? They know, okay, gosh, when I cry, my caretaker, my parent will come in and attend to me. That's where that trust is built. When a lack of those things occur, then that leads to mistrust. When babies cry and they're not attended to, then that can teach the child or the infant, that, gosh, even if I cry, that's not going to get me what I need or what I desire right now. And so I'm just going to stop, right? I can't trust that my needs are going to be met, so I'm not even going to cry. So again, during that stage, the first year of a kiddo's life, they are learning that they can trust their caretakers and those in their lives, or that the people in their lives can't be trusted. The next stage is about 1 year to, about a year and a half to about 2 to 3 years of age. And again, this is kind of fluid. There's no exact science to it, but this is where kiddos go through autonomy versus shame and doubt. Okay, so this is when infants are gaining a sense of personal control over their physical skills. They're, gaining this sense of independence, right? They're starting to eat and walk and, try new things, right? So it's critical that during this stage that parents allow their children to explore within their abilities in an encouraging environment and that's safe, right? We don't want kiddos, trying stuff out that's going to end up with a bookshelf on top of them or whatever. We don't need them falling and hurting themselves. But also in an environment that is tolerant of failure, allowing them to try new things that maybe they're not quite ready for, but allowing them to experiment and try things out. And if they fail at it, it's okay. These are things that aren't going to hurt them or hurt others. So success within this particular stage, again, up to about 3 years of age, leads to feelings of autonomy. And failure results in feelings of shame and doubt. So obviously we want our kids in the first stage to feel like they can trust their environment, the caretakers that they have in their lives. And in the second stage, we want them to feel like they have some autonomy, right? And I know I've talked about choices and limit setting, returning responsibility, and those are some things that can help our kiddos feel more autonomous in their own lives. So the next stage is initiative versus guilt. And this stage occurs during preschool years, about the ages 3 to 5. This is when a lot of parents kind of assert that label on their child of terrible twos or three-nagers, right? I've heard that all, but I've heard all of those. Because this is when they begin to assert their power and control over their environment, right? By planning activities, accomplishing tasks, facing challenges. Success at this stage leads to a sense of purpose. They are, sometimes stubborn in this stage, but they are determined, right? They are learning how to accomplish things. They are facing challenges and overcoming and learning and growing. And, if we discourage them to initiate trying new things, trying challenges, if it's dismissed or discouraged, then this can lead to a sense of guilt, right? And discouraging and dismissing can come through criticizing our kids, can come through trying to control them, and not allowing them to take those risks or the initiative to try those new things. Obviously, we want to control the environment to make sure that it's safe for them to try these things, but we want to allow them, the freedom to explore, to try, and experiment, obviously in a safe way. So we want them to feel like they can take that initiative, right? And then the next stage is industry versus inferiority, and this is between the ages of about 5 and 12. So this is when a child's peer group becomes more important. You're going to be seeing a lot more of that peer pressure. Your child is going to start thinking about, oh, what would my friends think? And those sorts of things, right? So their peer group is going to gain greater significance and become a major source of the child's self-esteem. The child is coping with new learning and social demands. Success in this particular stage of development leads to a sense of competence, and failure in this area is going to result in feelings of inferiority. Okay, the next stage, and this will be the last one that I talk about, the other ones go into adulthood, but the next stage in adolescence is identity versus role confusion. This is about between the ages of about 12 to 18. And this is when teenagers are exploring who they are as individuals, right? They're seeking to establish that sense of self, and they might start experimenting with different roles, activities, behaviors, trying on new sorts of ways of being, right? They see their peers dressing a certain way or acting a certain way or using a certain type of language. And so they try that on and see, oh, is this for me or not, right? So, according to Erikson, it says, this is important to the process of forming a strong identity and developing a sense of direction in life. And so encouraging, your teenagers, your adolescents to experiment with things, obviously in a safe way. We don't want them experimenting with unsafe things, so that's important as well. But allowing them to try things out and really explore kind of who they are as a person. So, yeah, that's kind of as far as Erik Erikson's view, kind of the different stages of development. So it's not that our kids are trying to drive us crazy with, their new outfits or their language or their music or whatever. Maybe as an adolescent, they're just trying to figure out who they are and what they like and what's important to them and things like that. And same goes for every other stage as well. Our kids are not adults, and so they're learning, and it's our job and responsibility as their parents to help guide them and direct them, be patient with them as they're growing and learning, and also just keep that in mind when our kids are going through some tough stuff. It's probably maybe they're getting ready to jump into a new stage of development, or maybe they're stuck in a stage of development, right? So maybe they haven't fully, gained initiative, right? Maybe they're stuck in the guilt part, or maybe they haven't felt competent with their skills and things, with their peers, and so they're feeling inferior. So, hopefully some of the skills that I have talked about and shared with you all can help, help your children through some of these stages on the positive side, so that they can be happy and healthy little individuals. Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to share as it pertains to development is a resource that is super awesome. And these are books that the Gazelle Institute of Human Development puts out, and they have done decades of research over the ages and stages of development, and they put out these books, and they're super cool. So this one kind of is an overview. They do, this one breaks it up kind of for some different ages and stages in here, that you can just read about, where your child's at, maybe what is a, I hate to use the word normal, but, what they have found in their research of what is, fairly typical of kids during certain ages and stages. And then it also has some things in here like different struggles or issues that your child or your family might be facing and ways that you can help. So this one's been really cool for me to provide to parents on, if there's like a specific thing that they're struggling with, or if they want to know, gosh, my kid is doing this. Is this normal? Is this a developmental thing? Should I worry about this? This has been a good reference to help parents with. And then like you see each of these, they kind of break it up for, I don't have all of them. This is your 3-year-old, friend or enemy, your 4-year-old, wild and wonderful, your 8-year-old, lively and outgoing, your 10 to 14-year-old, so they kind of have chunked that, age group together. But these, I don't know, it's really enlightening. If you are a reader and this type of stuff interests you and you want to know, gosh, is what my kiddo going through, is this normal? Is this to be expected? Should I worry? Is this part of normal development? Or is this something I need to be concerned about? These can be a great guide for you. I looked up earlier on Amazon, which I don't know. I'd rather support mom and pop shops, but and I have found some of these at like thrift stores or used bookstores, so check those out if you can. But just looking on Amazon earlier, they ranged from about $10 to $20 depending on the book. So pretty inexpensive, but if you are a reader, these can be super helpful. And again, decades of research went into these, and you can find them for every age group of your child. So yeah, that's I guess kind of my spiel on development. And just knowing, it's important. You can research other people too. There's plenty of people who have, their different theories and their thoughts on development and things like that. This is just kind of one that I kind of go to help parents understand. But yeah, I think it's important to remember that our kids are not miniature adults. They are on their kind of pathway of development, and some of even, the irritating or troublesome sort of things that they're doing as kids is actually normal, and encouraging to let us know as parents that they're on their path to to just developing in a positive way that's to be expected. So hopefully that will help you. Yeah, check out those books if you have some time. You can probably get them at the library as well, I'm guessing, or you can order them online. Okay, well, thanks. We'll see you again soon with another topic.